My name is Alex. I'm 32, and I live in a quiet neighborhood in Chicago. I've always thought of my home as a safe space. I live alone, and though the area isn't crime-free, I never felt like I had any reason to be paranoid. That changed a few weeks ago. It started with a package. One morning, I opened my door to find a small brown box sitting on my porch. There was no return address, no name, nothing. I didn't think much of it at first. I figured it might have been delivered to the wrong house. But when I opened it, my stomach turned. Inside were 3 items: a photograph of me, a watch I hadn't seen in years, and a key. The photograph was an old picture of me taken at a park I used to visit. I didn't even remember owning it. The watch was even more unsettling. I thought I'd lost it years ago. It was one of those small things I never thought I'd see again. And the key, well, I didn't recognize it at all. A chill ran down my spine. How did these things end up here? I tried to stay calm, thinking it had to be some sort of mix-up or prank. But deep down, I knew something was very wrong. I spent the day going through my apartment, looking for any signs that someone had broken in, but nothing seemed out of place. The locks were fine, windows secure. But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been in my home, someone who knew me well enough to gather these personal items. That night, I barely slept. Every little sound made me jump. Around 2 a.m., I heard it, a faint creaking noise coming from downstairs. My heart started pounding in my chest. I grabbed my phone, creeping toward the door. I told myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but then I heard footsteps. Soft, careful, like someone was trying to stay quiet. I dialed 911, but as I did, I realized whoever was inside was already in my house. I grabbed a baseball bat I kept under my bed and slowly moved toward the stairs. That's when I saw him. A man standing in the hallway, looking around like he belonged there. I didn't recognize him right away, but as he turned toward me, it clicked. His name was David, an old acquaintance I hadn't seen in years. We had mutual friends, but I never knew him well. What was he doing here? Why did he have my things? Before I could say anything, he spoke, calm and unsettling. I've been watching you, Alex. You're so lucky. I've been collecting pieces of your life, getting closer. I felt sick. He had been following me, breaking into my home, stealing things to feel closer to me. And now, he was standing in my hallway, acting like this was normal. I backed away slowly, gripping the bat tightly. "Get out of my house," I managed to say, my voice shaking. He took a step forward, and that's when I ran. I bolted out the back door and sprinted to my neighbor's house, banging on the door until they let me in. The police arrived within minutes, but it felt like hours. They arrested David. During questioning, he admitted everything. He had been planning this for months, slowly working his way into my life, collecting my belongings to make himself feel like he was a part of it. He wanted to take over my life, live in my house, use my things, become me. I've moved since then, but I can't shake the feeling of being watched. I keep thinking about how easily he had slipped into my world without me even noticing. I never thought something like this could happen to me, but it did. My name is Mayan. I'm 29, and I live in a small apartment in Austin, Texas. Life was pretty quiet until a few weeks ago, when something strange started happening. It began with these late-night phone calls. Always around 2 or 3 a.m. At first, I thought it was just a wrong number, but when I'd answer, no one would say anything. Just silence. At first, I'd brushed it off, figuring it was a random prank, but the calls didn't stop. They came night after night, the same dead silence on the other end. Each time, I felt more unnerved. Who would be calling me in the middle of the night and not say a word? A week of this passed, and I started feeling anxious in my own home. I couldn't sleep. jumping at every little noise. But one night, it got worse. I was lying in bed, staring at my phone, waiting for the usual call. Suddenly, I heard a noise downstairs. It was faint, like a creak, but enough to make my blood run cold. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, but then I heard it again, louder this time. My heart pounded in my chest as I crept downstairs, trying to stay as quiet as possible. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I noticed something that stopped me in my tracks. The front door was slightly ajar. I hadn't left it open. I knew that for sure. Panic set in as I hurriedly shut the door and locked it. I rushed back upstairs to check my security cameras. I'd installed them a few months ago, but never thought I'd need them for anything serious. When I pulled up the footage, my stomach dropped. There was someone, a figure dressed in dark clothes, entering my house. They moved carefully, avoiding the cameras, keeping their face covered the entire time. I couldn't see who they were, but they had been inside while I was upstairs, completely unaware. My hands were shaking as I called the police. I grabbed my phone and hid in my bedroom closet, trying to keep my breathing quiet. I could hear movement downstairs again. Heavy footsteps, closer this time. Then the worst thing happened. The footsteps stopped right outside my bedroom door. Whoever was in my house was now in my room. My heart raced as I tried not to make a sound. Suddenly, there was a loud bang on the closet door. I felt like I was going to pass out. The intruder started pounding harder, yelling, trying to force it open. I thought I was going to die in that closet, trapped like an animal. My phone was still connected to the police, and I was whispering, begging them to hurry. It felt like forever, but after a few minutes, I heard the sound of sirens outside. The banging stopped. The police broke in and arrested the man. When they took him out of my house, I finally saw his face. I didn't recognize him, but he knew me. The police later told me he had been stalking me for weeks, watching my house, making those silent phone calls to see how I'd react. He knew my routine, when I'd be home, when I'd be asleep. He had been planning to confront me for days, maybe longer. I moved out the next week, but even now, in my new place, I still can't shake the feeling that someone's watching me. My name is Olivia. I'm 27, and I live in a small house just outside Denver. I had just returned from a weekend trip with friends, feeling relaxed and ready to settle back into my normal routine. As I walked into my kitchen, I noticed something odd. There was a note on the table that wasn't there before I left. It said, "I've been waiting for you." The name at the bottom wasn't familiar. I thought it was just a weird prank. Maybe one of my friends trying to mess with me. I laughed it off, but something about the way the note was written. It was too unsettling. The handwriting was neat, almost too perfect. I tried to shake off the unease and went about my evening, unpacking my bag and getting ready for bed. But as I was brushing my teeth, I heard something, faint but distinct. It was coming from above me, in the attic. My heart skipped a beat. I'd lived in this house for 2 years and never heard noises like that before. I tried to tell myself it was just an animal, maybe a raccoon or a squirrel. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I grabbed a flashlight and, against my better judgment, went up to check. As I pulled down the attic ladder, something was off. It had been moved recently, the dust disturbed. Someone had been up there. I slowly climbed the steps, shining my light into the dark space above. At first, I didn't see anything. But then, in the corner, I spotted a small pile of crumpled paper. My heart raced as I picked up one of the papers. It was another note. This one was even more disturbing. It detailed my daily routine. The note described when I left for work, when I returned home, and even what time I usually went to bed. I frantically searched through the rest of the attic and found more notes. All of them were about me. Someone had been watching me, tracking my every move, and leaving these notes behind. Terrified, I rushed back downstairs and locked all the doors and windows, double-checking each one. I called the police, trying to stay calm, but my hands were shaking. When the police arrived, they searched the entire house. At first, they found nothing, and I started to think maybe I was losing my mind. But then one of the officers called me over. They had found a hidden compartment in the attic, tucked away behind some insulation. Inside were photos of me, dozens of them, along with more notes, all tracking my life. The intruder had been living up there for weeks, maybe longer, silently watching me from above.